What the hell is she doing with that crowbar? If you'd told me last week that my HOA president would break into my garage in the dead of night, I'd have called you crazy. But here I am, every minute of it caught on camera, and I can't decide if I'm in a crime drama or a bad sitcom. Let's just say it all went downhill fast from the moment Diane Foster Pineview Estates' self-declared dictator decided that my life as a low-key mechanic with a few chickens was some kind of criminal affront to suburban order. You ever wake up to a Karen measuring your grass at sunrise with a metal ruler and a 500-page rulebook under her arm? Because I have, and believe me, it gets a lot weirder from there. It was a Tuesday in June, and I just inherited this little 5-acre ranch from my dad, living easy, fixing up old cars, feeding my chickens, not bothering a soul. But somehow, that was the problem. Diane, 50 head of the HOA and owner of the most impressive collection of beige blazers in Texas, was always on the prowl for fresh violations. She'd nailed me for tall grass, a truck parked 2 degrees off center, and even accused my dog of barking for 3 hours straight. Fun fact, I don't even have a dog. So I'm standing there rubbing my eyes in yesterday's jeans while she's lying face down in my yard snapping forensic photos of each blade of grass, looking like a crime scene tech with a vendetta. Next thing I know, Sophie from next door shows up, phone camera rolling, calling Diane out. Thank God for witnesses. Even Agent Pierce, my FBI neighbor, wandered by with his coffee, muttering that some folks need a hobby. I thought that was the end of the morning's entertainment, but Diane spent another hour finding new ways to find me for everything from the color of my chicken coop to the thickness of my doormat. I racked up $2,000 in fines before breakfast. That night, cleaning up my garage, I find a business card on my workbench, Agent Daniel Pierce, FBI, and next to it a metal briefcase stamped with the FBI logo. Not mine. Heart racing, I call the number. Pierce picks up, real casual. Just hang on to it. Don't open it. Don't tell anyone, I'll explain later. I barely had time to process that before I noticed fresh scratches on my garage lock, like someone tried to pick it. That's when I installed security cameras, and let me tell you, they paid for themselves in less than 24 hours. Next morning, I'm checking the feed, and no surprise, I catch Diane creeping around my garage at 2:00 a.m., crowbar in hand, whispering into her phone about the FBI briefcase and a $50,000 $1,000 payday. And she wasn't alone. Next night, she brought a guy in black, both of them casing my place like this was Ocean's 11 Suburban Edition. The kicker. She tried to pick my lock with a bobby pin, failed, and resorted to full-on crowbar tactics before her partner called her off. It didn't stop there. Diane, never one to keep crazy ideas to herself, posts on the community page that I'm running illegal ranch operations, accuses me of trafficking exotic animals, and posts drone photos of my chicken coop. The neighborhood goes wild, half of them convinced I'm running a black market zoo, the other half cheering me on. That's when Mike enters the picture, Diane's private detective, a 19-year-old kid with a GoPro hired off Craigslist for $50. He tried to sneak over my fence, got stuck, and after I helped him down and gave him some water, he confessed Diane's whole plan. She's convinced I'm hiding something in my garage. So I decided, if you can't beat the narrative, own it. I invited the whole neighborhood over for a ranch tour, BBQ, chickens, the works. People showed up in droves, swapping Diane horror stories, laughing about their own ridiculous finds. One guy got dinged for a doormat that was too welcoming, another for architecturally inconsistent wind chimes. It was the most fun Pineview Estates had had in years. Even Pierce showed up giving me a serious talk. Turns out that briefcase really was FBI property evidence for a bigger case. And Diane wasn't just a busybody, she was tangled up in something much nastier. And Diane, she couldn't stand being out of control. She tried to crash the BBQ, threatening everyone with made-up rules, but nobody cared anymore. Later, I found Mike's GoPro still rolling in my garage, and on the footage, Diane on the phone bragging about the $50,000 finder's fee for the briefcase. Suddenly, this was less about grass and more about federal crime. Then came the night I caught her breaking in for real, dressed in black ski mask made from a Whole Foods bag, her crowbar glinting under the motion lights. I watched nearly in tears, laughing as she fumbled through lockpicking tutorials on YouTube, dropped her tools a dozen times, and eventually crawled inside, knocking over my oil cans. But I'd swapped out the real evidence with a decoy, a USB labeled confidential. When Diane finally found it, she celebrated by snapping a selfie and leaving a signed confession right in the briefcase. The real USB, of course, would have triggered an FBI response in minutes. But all she got was a Rick Astley Rickroll video and a slideshow of her greatest HOA hits, measuring grass at dawn, yelling at kids, you name it. By the time she realized she'd been played, I was already standing behind her phone in hand recording everything. She tried to bluff her way out, but she'd literally signed her own confession. I let her go, figured the evidence would do more damage than I could. The next day, FBI SUVs rolled in. Turns out Pierce had been investigating the HOA mafia. Diane was running embezzling millions through fake fines, laundering money, even hiring muscle to threaten people who stood up to her. When Diane realized she'd walked into a federal sting, she tried to play the victim, but Harold, her loyal VP, cracked under the pressure and exposed 3 years of corruption at an emergency HOA meeting. The neighbors, emboldened, stood up one after another, telling stories of fines for cultural violations and aggressive sidewalk chalk. Harold motioned to kick Diane out, reverse all her fines, and within minutes, she'd lost every shred of power. But Diane wasn't finished. She posted a $50,000 bounty on me on some dark web forum, and suddenly my house was swarming with police, neighbors panicking, everyone scared they'd be the next target. Diane made bail, and while I was at the emergency meeting, she sent goons to destroy my chicken coop and ransack my garage. I came home to feathers and tools everywhere, Diane standing across the street sipping tea like nothing happened. Even her alibi was airtight, her neighbor Margaret vouching for her. But the FBI was closing in, tracking every move through the USB she'd swiped. Then came the final showdown in court. Diane, wearing a neck brace for dramatic effect, sued me for defamation and emotional distress. Her lawyer, Better Call Bob, in a purple suit, lasted 5 minutes before running from the courtroom in terror, spooked by Diane's threats and the FBI investigation. The judge dismissed her case, held her in contempt, and Diane, screaming about her empire, was cuffed live on local TV for everyone to see. As they dragged her away, she hissed at me, promising revenge, and that's when I got a text from Pierce. They have Sophie. Don't come. Turns out it was another bluff. Sophie was fine, Diane was just desperate. The FBI used me as bait for one last sting, live on Channel 7 News. 3 SUVs pulled up. Diane tried to cash in and instead confessed everything live for the whole state to see. The syndicate got rolled up. Diane sobbed that she just wanted the neighborhood to be perfect, and Pineview Estates became a national punchline for HOA insanity. Harold took over, burned Diane's rulebook, and made a new one. Don't be a jerk. Mike started a YouTube channel about his worst detective jobs and went viral. Even Agent Pierce got a promotion, and my chickens, well, they got a new fancier coop. 6 months later, I got a letter from Diane in federal prison asking for her old ruler back. I mailed it to her, snapped in half with a note, growth can't be measured. Now, every so often I find a mysterious package or a new shadow on my security feed, and sometimes I wonder if it's really over or if Phase 2's about to start. But one thing's for sure, when you take on a suburban tyrant, you'd better be ready for anything, even if it means turning your own life into the craziest HOA saga the neighborhood's ever seen. So what do you think? Was justice really served, or is there more to this whole HOA mafia story than we'll ever know? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear where you stand on justice community, and how far is too far when it comes to neighborhood power.